Hey guys, this is Aniket Bhosale and in this video I'll be reviewing the 3D experience of Kanguva. Just kidding, Kanguva. Now let's talk about movie experience versus the 3D experience. The good part will be Suriya's acting performance, set design, makeup and production value of the periodic time the film was set in. Apart from that, rest of the whole material is just mediocre and lacks substance. And now talking about the 3D department, the conversion is not the best out there, but it's a very good 3D film, but it will come at a cost that you have to watch this whole film. 2 hours and 34 minutes won't be an easy experience. As this is a post-converted 3D film, let's talk about 3D conversions. The post-3D conversion of this film is done by RAYS3D. RAYS3D is an Indian-based studio which is famous for rotoscoping and 2D to 3D post-conversion. 2D to 3D post-conversion is when you shoot a film in 2D and then in post you convert this film in 3D. In the recent years, shooting a film in stereoscopic 3D camera is as rare as shooting a film in 1570 IMAX film celluloid cameras because it's way too costly and it's not feasible for the studios. And with AI and post 3D conversion is getting much better day by day and it's less costly compared to shooting something traditionally in 3D. Pretty sure creators of Kanguva wanted this to be a 3D film, but they choose the route to shoot in 2D and later convert into a 3D film. So how was the conversion? Was it good? Let's talk about it. To tell you how was the 3D conversion, I will use two different approaches. First one will be verbally, and that will be if you have seen Vikrant Rona in 3D and you have liked or disliked the 3D experience based on the 3D conversion. Again, I'm not talking about the 3D effects or overall 3D experience. I'm talking about the 3D conversion. You can easily decide now if you want to watch this film in 3D or not. The second approach will be if you have anaglyph 3D glasses, it's time to wear them now and watch the 3D images I'm putting on the screen as a visual aid to give you a rough idea how the 3D conversion is, how clean or glitchy the 3D experience will be. You can decide for yourself if you want to watch this film in 3D or not. I don't know even how to begin with this, I don't think so I'm capable enough to make such comments, but here I am as a viewer. The good part will be I love what RAYS3D produces when it comes to their 3D conversions. The efforts they put in, they put in a lot of efforts, like very hardworking people, and you can see that in every frame. So why people hate conversion of RAYS3D? The reason being they put in a lot of efforts, and this is the problem. I mean, they put in so much efforts that it's an overkill, right? What I mean by that is, this is a post 3D conversion for Shivaji 3D by Prasad's EFX. Now, this is just for comparison, right? Even I don't know the in-depth process of post 3D conversion. This is just we are touching on the surface. Here, we are basically cutting out the objects and subjects to give them a 3D depth of field, right? And here we do the depth mapping, in an approximate, which object subject will have what kind of depth. And in here, this is the rotoscoping part. You rotoscope the face, the accessories, the whole body, right? And also things that are in foreground, semi-foreground, in the middle, the background. And when it comes to a traditional 3D conversion, and here I'm just assuming things, right? I'm not a 3D artist, so I'm just assuming based on the 3D conversion I'm seeing at the cinemas with my naked eyes and what I'm differentiating the style of 3D conversion. If we are analyzing this frame and if a 3D studio was supposed to do the conversion for a Marvel film, what I'm seeing that this person will have only a handful of layers. And I'll talk about layers as in numbers, His hand will have a depth of field from 5 to 7 or maybe 5 to 6 and then 6 to 5. His whole hand. His body will have a layer of maybe let's say 5. His back will have approx 4.5 to 5. I'm talking about the depth layers, how things will be popping out of the screen. Head will have a depth of field of maybe 4, right? But when it comes to RAYS3D, what I'm usually seeing is his whole body will have individual depth of field for individual objects and subjects. I'm legit saying his nose have an individual depth of field, his elbow is having an individual depth of field, his hand will have an individual depth of field. That's the amount of depth of field I'm seeing in just one character. That's the amount of efforts RAYS3D puts in the 3D conversion, which is great. But the problem is, this is a still image. So a still image looks good, it feels well detailed, but when the image starts moving, and especially like a film like Kanguva, which has choppy editing, it just doesn't look good, and they will try to achieve level of 3D that is not natural and is over exaggerated. Like in the recent years, post 3D conversion is different. What they usually do is they try to maintain a sense of realism. What I mean by that is they try to replicate what we see with our own naked eyes, you know, how we see this world in 3 dimension. So they have to make sure the depths are natural and it feels real to our eyes. And so they maintain the depth between a character and an object accordingly. So you'll see that, you know, most of the time the things are not popping out much, but actually going inside the screen, giving you, I think maybe it's called beyond the window effect, right? But when it comes to Rays 3D, what they try to do is they always try to over exaggerate 3D. They will give you the best 3D conversions when it comes to pop outs, you know, things are always popping out, but again, they don't follow sense of realism. Their priority is like, we will make sure you feel 3D, the extreme level of 3D. So I think that's the problem. When it comes to Kanguva, 3D is not clean. You get that messy and glitchy 3D effects, especially with subtitles in this film. Like if, let's say, this is a 3D object coming out of the screen and here's the subtitles. Subtitles are inside the screen. So these are the subtitles and these are the 3D subject popping out. Just messes up with your head. The edges are not properly clean. A ear was missing. Suriya sir is turning. Some of his edges were missing. Like sometimes I couldn't see his ear. Sometimes I'm seeing half his face. Like that is not how a person should look in 3D. It just feels weird to your eyes. But at the end, these are my opinion. As a 3D enthusiast, attendees' reaction were completely different. They were like, "अरे ये फिल्म का 3D काफी अच्छा लगा. अरे 3D ऐसा लग रहा था कि बाहर आ रहा है, हमारे पास आ रहा है." So attendees enjoyed the 3D and they were like, "Oh, the film is good in 3D." So these are just my nitpicks. You know, right from the get-go when the opening scene started and the kid is escaping from a science lab, I realized, oh, this is made for 3D. This is not shot for 3D. What I mean by that is, throughout the whole film, creators make sure they throw things in front of camera via VFX, but when it comes to cinematography, they are not doing much of a heavy lifting. See, sometimes if you're shooting in jungle, you take any angle, there will be depths because it's jungle, it has so many layers. So you can't say they planned much. Anyways, they didn't plan much for the script anyways. So many points to add where they can correct themselves. Firstly, it's like they are shooting way too extremely close to a talent's face. Thoda sa give them a breathable space and let the actor, the talent, you know, flesh out of the screen. I don't want to see a cropped 3D image, right? Secondly, they are just having hand cams, which is way too shaky, where I'm getting motion blur. Because of motion blur, I'm not able to see the picture clearly. Then there's choppy editing. Sometimes, you know, things are popping out and sometimes the character is way too flat. What? Feels that they shot this film how they will shoot a 2D film with just keeping pop-outs in mind कि भाई हमको चीजें फेंकनी है बस. Which brings to our next segment, that is pop-outs. This film have so many pop-outs throughout the whole film. Whenever there's like bullet shooting, you get like bullets pop out. So many times leaves just pops out of the screen. Whenever Kanguva just like, you know, there's a superhero landing, there's leaves and there's debris and there's dust everywhere and it pops out of the screen. Scene with water splashes and water droplets pops out. At a point, Disha Patni throws gems and there's ice, then there's wood particles, eagle, arrows, Kanguva pointing aise, and there's Kanguva shouting, ah! And there were many times where I just like blinked my eyes because the pop-out was that strong. So pop-outs are good to go. Now talking about the blend effect, this effect you get when you're watching a 3D film, because when you wear your 3D glasses, even if it's a really 3D or polarized 3D, your 3D glasses are slightly darker in shade. So you get slightly darker and dimmer image. For Kanguva, I felt the movie was very colorful and vibrant even in dark locations. So you're very good to go. And lastly, talking about the audio part, when I'm just going to say, if you have noise cancellation earphones, please carry that. You're gonna need it. Or if you have just like cotton, just carry that because you're gonna need it. Because especially the second half, people just yell, shout, they just roar, yell a lot. It's irritating after some point, and I really got like a headache, mild headache in second half towards the climax. I was like, okay, this is too much yelling for me. I just can't take it.